Hello everyone, so today we are really starting to test out what Kiro is capable of. And you can see here we have 4 features being built in parallel. So we are really starting to scale up what we are able to do with Kiro within the hour that we have allocated to these videos. Follow along and check out what we are building today in Kiro. For those of you who have been following along, I'm just going to recap quickly. We are building shards. Shards is an application where a shard is basically an instance of a coding agent in an isolated environment. At the moment, each shard is being created in a worktree with an agent running in that worktree. So we can launch, for example, the Kiro CLI, Gemini, Codex, Claude Code, Klein, what have you. All of these CLIs can be launched within isolated environment on isolated work trees on their own branches. So we can work with all of these agents on any given project if we want to. So please like, subscribe, and don't miss what's going to happen next. Also, some of you have been commenting that my audio and video quality has not been the best. So when I get, and if I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to upgrade my equipment. So please help me get there, and I will increase the quality of my videos as we go along. This video series here as well is until this Kiro hackathon is over, and then I'm going to go back to making the regular type of videos that I'm doing. We are back here working on shards. So don't worry if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes. I will go over quite in detail what I'm doing here. So we're building an application and I'm using the Kiro CLI and agentic engineering methods to do. Where we left off yesterday is that we created a couple of PRs. So we have 2 open pull requests here. And now we want to test a code review system that we built for the Kiro CLI. So we essentially have this code review prompt that should kick off a set of agents for us. So let's try if that works. We have not tested that yet. So I'm just going to open the same terminals that we used yesterday. I'm going to link yesterday's episode up here. And what we really want to do is we want to clear these because we want to have clear context windows. And what we're going to do, we're just going to say at code review. And what this one should do is really should just ask us code review. Okay, that does not work. We can't invoke this because we haven't restarted our Kiro session. The problem here now with restarting the Kiro session is that I am inside of a work tree. I do not want to mess with that. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to say, please follow instructions. I'm going to paste in the prompt. I'm going to say the same here. Please follow the instructions in, paste the prompt. So this should do here, what would you like me to review? And we have PR number 4 and PR number 3. So your review scope is PR number 3. Use the GitHub CLI. I need to actually make sure. Can you please confirm with me which work tree you are on? So it's a little bit difficult here with Kiro because I can't see clearly where I am. So we actually sent this guy off on the wrong one, but I think it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It seems to be doing it based on the git diff, so that is okay. Yeah, so it's now getting the correct content. So instead of actually sending this off over here, I'm not going to do that since this is the wrong work tree. So I'm just going to do it sequentially here when this guy is done. So this is fine. It's running what we want. So it's running our different agents. So we have a code reviewer agent. We have a comment analyzer agent. We have an error hunter and a type analyzer agent. So these should now be synthesizing report, critical issues must fix. That should be commented to our PR, save and post. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to create an artifact, code review report, and then it's going to use that artifact to create a Git comment. So the issue here a little bit now is that we are in the wrong work tree. So that report or artifact is going to be saved in the wrong work tree. We can work around that. Let's see. I'm going to pull in our browser here and just check if the comment was added. Yeah, there was a comment added. That's great. Let's now do this. We will /clear, and we will now instead do this again. So this is now the correct one. So we should say please follow the instructions in this worktree, or sorry, in this prompt. Okay, it didn't ask me, but I'm just going to say you are in a worktree and your review scope is PR number 4. You should be in the correct worktree to work on that branch. Okay, there we go. So what we can do now with this guy instead. So the review has already been done. Please use the GitHub CLI to check the review on issue number 3. And I want you to address all of the issues that the review found. So now we can see here, we can see that we got a comment and we had no critical issues. We had 2 important issues, 3 suggestions, and a little bit of a report here. If you want the full report, we can of course open this markdown file, but it's currently inside of a worktree, so I'm not going to cd into that worktree just to open that file. Instead, what I would like to do is I would like to improve our system here a little bit. So one issue here that I don't like about what just happened is that our review system did not output the entire artifact into the comment. So that's basically one thing that I want to change. So I'm actually going to use Claude Code for that. So I'm just going to say here, please, for our code review system or code review swarm, one issue that is happening is that when the comment gets added to GitHub after all of the reviews are done, it is not the same as the artifact. So we want the entire report. We basically want the artifact report to be the same output as the GitHub issue report. So we want this to be detailed. We want to be able to make informed decisions of what we want to do and why we want to do something. So also having like options presented to us for the fixes would also be great. So we're going to use Claude Code for that. This is the same context window that I built the code review system in yesterday. So this context window here is already primed and ready to kind of work on that system. So that's great. The other one we have is another Kiro. This is where I just have done my devlog updates from yesterday. We should now have a new comment on issue number 4. Let's take a look at that. So the 2 features that we're building here at the moment is we're building a cleanup tracking system for our shards application, which is a work tree manager. I will add a little bit about what the shards is in the intro. So if you missed that, just go back to the intro and check the intro about shards. And we also have here a config system, a TOML-based config system where we can set our default agents, our default terminal, and we can also override here with different startup commands if you want to work with Claude Code or Gemini, whatever it may be. And we have 3 suggestions here. Check those real quick. Add modular documentation. Yeah, we want to do that. So I'm just going to say implementation quality is outstanding with no blocking issues. Okay, it seems confident. Please update this PR with all of the suggestions as well. Okay, great. So we have here a lot of things happening. So something that we want to do now first is that we want to push the system updates, like our agentic system updates, which is our prompts, really. So there's nothing that's going to break anything here. We're just updating prompts in this. Yeah, we're just updating our Kiro prompts. And we updated our Claude Code prompts now as well, which is fine. So we're just going to add that git status. We're on main and git commit. And I think it's also pushing because I did that yesterday. So it should be pushing here straight to main, which is fine because we're just updating. Okay, it didn't. Please push it to main as well. Okay, so that's done. Now we have this here and we have this here. So let's wait for this to finish and then we can, okay, this is still going. We had recent changes on main, so please rebase and then merge the PR. So we're just going to merge that in. We're going to wait for the other one here to finish as well. Okay, so PR number 3 was merged. I'm going to close this down. We now have this running here for PR number 4, where we're implementing the config system. We're basically just adding some tests here and making some fixes. So let's take a look here. Okay, so our other agent is done. We should also now be ready to merge. Okay, please merge this PR. Okay, so our agent actually hung here, which is unfortunate. So this keeps happening to me when I'm using the Kiro CLI. It's quite annoying. I don't know how to kind of, okay, I just pressed Control C and it seems to have made it restart again. Yeah, let's just wait for it to finish then. Okay, Great. So now it has completed. It didn't merge it, but it repays. I'm going to actually close that now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this main agent that we had here. This is basically our worktree manager agent, right? So we're going to tell it both work trees are, we're done with both of the work trees and both of the branches. We merged already PR number 3, and we are ready to merge PR number 4. So please use the GitHub CLI and merge PR number 4, and let me know when you're done. So something that we're going to do now is that we're going to create like a regression test script that's going to help us in the future here for checking that the application works when we merge. So I'm not afraid at all about merging without doing too much reviews here in the beginning, because we are very early on in development and we've tested quite thoroughly on the things that we have built so far. What we haven't really tested now is like the new functionality. We're going to do that now. And what we're going to do is we're going to start up our this agent again. So we have still the same agent that we were working with yesterday. This is basically the one that have managed our work trees. We can also say, please use the .claude/skills worktree manager skill also to clean up the work trees. Let's see, it should recognize. So this is like us shoehorning our Claude code skill for managing work trees into Kiro to use that. So we have actually the skill lives here, worktree manager skill. I'll link that down below if you want to use it. It's basically a simpler version of the application that we're building. So yeah, you can just use that out of the box. Now let's get back here. It has cleaned everything up. Perfect. What we want to do now is we want to create like a script that it's like a regression testing script. So what we want to have is we want to make it run our agents with different config options. So for example, it should run Claude code in the native terminal with the startup command is Claude. It should run maybe Codex in iterm2. The startup command is Codex. It should run the Kiro CLI. And yeah, so different config options. And we should also test once all of that is created and we have created all of those instances of agents in different work trees, we should also then, after that have been set up, we should test all the cleanup things that we just did in PR number 3. So please create a regression script for that we can run and make sure everything works. Yeah, this is something I like to do just for me to have an additional kind of validation that I can just run to double check my agents so that they're not breaking something that we already built. But in this case here, we're testing kind of new functionality. Let's see. Just wrote a shell script. Would have preferred to write it in maybe UV, Python or something, but it's fine. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to say, please run the script. So it has actually Ghosty here. We actually removed support for Ghosty, so that's not going to work, but that's okay. Okay, here we go. Let's see, we have some terminals opening. Codex is opening. Gemini is opening. Okay, rewrite the script then for Kiro. So Kiro should be Kiro dash CLI chat. We don't need maybe the trust all tools to be in the test script. And also, I think for the Claude code one, there's actually 2 terminals opening, but one of them is launching the agent, but one of them is just empty. So here, this is the one I'm talking about. It's just a terminal window opening, but there's actually nothing going on in there. We can see here, so because I have this status line thing here in Claude Code, we can see this actually got created on the work tree. That's great. We can't really confirm that visually on the other ones, but I'm just going to assume that it worked and close those out. There's a Claude Code. Codex works. Kiro works. And Gemini works. Okay, awesome. So we can literally now use shards. Pretty useful already in a way, like we can just use the shards work tree create command with our agents, and we can literally run different work trees with our different agents in parallel. So yeah, that's pretty useful. We're not going to use it right now like that, but that's pretty good that we now have our regression script working as well. So yeah, now we are going to plan some new features. So really what we want to build now is we want to have some port management. So we want to be able to like manage ports in shards itself, so that shards basically allocates ports to our different work trees as well. And one more thing that we want to have is that we want to have this kind of like process tracking. So we want to be able to know if a session is alive or dead in different ways. So basically, I'm thinking like we're wrapping the terminal so that we can both track if the worktree is active and also if the terminal is open. So if we close the terminal, we know that there is no active session in the worktree. And we can also track that if there's files that are uncommitted and so on. And we also want to track that if we delete the worktree, we also want to be able to, or we want to close that session because we don't want to have these stale sessions that can't do anything. So that's one thing that we want to build. But yeah, we also want to have this kind of like status detection. So I'm just going to ask it here. Missing commands. Yeah, great. Session name matching issue. The sessions are created, but with slightly different name in the list. Okay, please create GitHub issues for all of those issues that you ran into. For example, the missing commands and the session name matching issue. Maybe the session management and the name matching issue should be one issue. I'll leave that up to you. Okay, so we now have some GitHub issues coming up here. That's great. But yeah, so now we have those. But what we really want to focus on now as well is like we want to start building our GUI. So I'm going to clear this context right now. And I'm just going to quit actually. Clear. And I'm going to go back in a new fresh session. And what we're going to do, we're going to use one of our commands. Kiro prompts. We now have create plan. Yeah, create plan, which is the one we want to use. So I'm going to do @create -plan. So we are now going to use Kiro's internal planning mode. We are rather going to create a plan for something that we want to have. So I'm going to just talk into it here and kind of describe my ideas, right, for how I want this to work. So we want to build a GUI using gpui, the same thing that SED is built on, the SED IDE. So we can use that as a reference a lot as we try to learn about how to use it. The GUI should basically just have a sidebar with the list of all of our projects. So it should be like a project and a sub list with all of our active work trees inside of there and our active like shard sessions. Then we should have inside of there, we should have a terminal view. So basically, if I click on either of those work trees, I should be able to like open the terminal inside of each of those active sessions or active shards that we would have. We're going to be using gpui for the GUI. We're going to use pty for the spawning terminals and probably Alacrity terminal emulation or something like that. You can decide on that yourself. Please do research on that. And we will use the file-based storage for now. Maybe we'll go into SQLite a little bit later. And yeah, I think that's more or less it. So just to clarify a little bit here, so we want to have the shards GUI, a portable PTY, a shell, an agent, and we will own this PTY with direct PID access. We want to capture all the output, send input. We want to have like resize handling and all of this stuff. So we are basically going to have these PTY components and stuff. So yeah, please help me plan out this feature in detail. Yeah, now that's going to run and it's going to follow the process that we have here in the prompt. If you want to grab that, you can grab that from the shards directory down below. I have these prompts in here, both for Claude and for Kiro, so you can use them for whatever. I'm just going to let that run. So as that runs, we're going to exit out of Claude Code here, and we're going to run Kiro in here as well. We're going to run another plan. So we're going to have @create dash. So I'm not sure. Probably we should have done this before we created the plan for the GUI, but I kind of want to create the GUI as soon as possible. So I'm just going to do them in parallel and we can resolve any conflicts later on if we need to. So I'm just going to, again, here talk into my transcribing tool. I use Whisperflow and just give it my thoughts about what I want to build. So our shards also need port allocation. So basically when we have multiple shards running on any given project, it might need several ports. Say it's a microservice, might need, for example, 10 ports. We can use that as default. Each new shard that is created from a project needs port allocation, and we don't want to have conflicts between projects or between shards. So we want to have this also tracked, the state of this, and we want to be able to manage this as well. So in the configs, we should be able to manage ports. The default, if it should be 1, 2, or 10 ports, we should be able to manage in the config. And we also want to be able to, together with the cleanup commands like the pruning and the deletion and stuff, we also want to make sure that these ports are cleared up as we are working on cleanups. So that this should be a pretty simple feature, really. I built this a few times before. First of all, for the skill, and also for a couple of other kind of test applications that I've done on this same topic. So yeah, we now have 2 plans being created. I think we can do a third one. I'm going to split this down. I'm going to run another Kiro instance. So we're going to do the same thing here. Create-plan, running our create plan prompt. I was going to ask me what feature I want to build. I'm going to tell it here again. So we want to, the next feature we want to build here is PID tracking. So when we spawn terminal, we can't really easily get this PID. So we have a few options, like either we want to wrap the terminals so we can track what's going on. We want to know if a terminal is running. We want to know if there is an active work tree for any given shard. We want to know if there is an active agent working inside of a shard. We want to know if a shard has an active work tree, so that also when we close a work tree or when we do like a pruning of a work tree or a shard, it also kind of prunes the terminal process so that we don't end up with a bunch of stale processes and stale work trees and vice versa. So we want to track the state of this as well. Of course, this might be overkill right now. I do want to plan this out so that I can read the plan, because we might want to defer this to after we have built the GUI, but yeah, we'll see. Now we should have a few things here that we can run in parallel. So first of all, I want to open up, and before we do anything more, can you please just add all and commit and push to main? It should be just the regression script and the regression testing markdown file. So I see that our commands here are saving our plan files in place where we don't really want them. It's fine, we can have them in Archon. Archon is another application I'm building, so that's where we have these commands coming from. I'm basically reusing commands that I have used before. So they are now created here in the artifacts in Archon, but we kind of want them in the artifacts inside of Kiro. But we can address that later on by just changing the output string in our commands. Okay, but what we want now as well is we want to use our skill again. So I'm just going to go into the skill. I'm going to take the relative path to the skill.md. Okay, great. Can you please also commit the artifact plan files? We should have 2 of them, and push. So I just want to track our plan files so that they come with us into our work trees, because now we're going to create work trees. There's one thing I want to do here now before we continue on this. Could you please help me look into if we have functionality for when we want to create a shard and we create the work tree? Like, what files will come with us to the work tree? Is there any ignore patterns? Are we ignoring any files when we create a new shard? There should now even be one more file. Please copy over that too, or commit that too. See, now all of our plans are done. I'm going to scan through these quickly. Okay, great. So I have looked through all of our plans. They actually look quite good, all of them, even though there is some overlap, of course, between our PID tracking and our gpui, but I think that they can live in parallel. So I'm going to just do this. Let's just see what this guy said. So this is where we asked about work tree behavior and copying over files. So all tracked files are being copied over. Okay, great. So what we want to do for that, actually, we want to do at create-plan. I just spelled it wrong. So here I really wish that the Kiro team would implement autocomplete for prompts here. I want to create a feature where when we create shards, we want to have in our config, we want to have an include pattern. So say even though we have maybe git ignored files, maybe like the env file, maybe some artifact files and whatnot that are git ignored, we want to be able to write an include pattern in our config file that will override the git ignore and still include those files when we create new shards. So that's also a feature that we want to build, and that's going to go now. So yeah, what we're going to do now is now I'd like you to read and deeply understand this. Okay, so that's our skill.md. Then I want you to create 3 new work trees with appropriate names for one for each plan in our .archon artifact plans. Okay, so we're still not using shards to create our work trees, but we are using the skill that is based on. So we should get windows here opening in a second. And okay, so we are in ports. So we can see here now that actually creates Claude codes instances in each work tree. We don't want that, so I'm gonna close those. I suppose because I didn't specify. My default is Claude code, of course. So yes, all of them were set up, but what we actually want to do is we want to create, or instead of having Claude code being launched in each work tree, we want to launch the Kiro CLI using this startup command for each work tree. Oh, damn it. So we're just gonna quit, and I'm just gonna get this. Can never memorize that. But yeah, so that's our startup command for Kiro. There we go. Now we're getting Kiro instances instead. So now we also have, this is what's really neat about the skill as well, is I get this information. So this metadata here, what work tree, which tasks should I work on? I get even the path to the plan file. So I can very easily get started here. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do on the gpui, let's do a Ralph loop. Why not? So we're gonna do at Ralph loop, and we're gonna copy this because this is gonna be the path that it's gonna ask us for. Let's do the default. This here is the file. Yeah, so it's gonna need to convert our plan file to a Ralph PRD format. That's fine. It's a little bit experimental, this gpui implementation anyways, so we might want to rerun that tomorrow anyways, but I'm just gonna let that run. So I'm gonna set that off to the side. Now we are going to run. So for the other ones, we are going to run, I think it's this command we want. No, it should be this one. Implement plan. I think it's that one. We have an execute command too, but I think we created this implement plan yesterday, I'm pretty sure. So we're just gonna use that one for both of those. So we're gonna say at implement plan, and same here, image plan. And we have our plan file here. Okay, now those are gonna run. So we have right now 3 things running in parallel. So we have our gpui, we have our port allocation feature, and we have our PID tracking feature, all being implemented in parallel. So what we're gonna do now before we end for today is I'm just gonna, okay, that's great. Now we have a new plan file that we should commit and push to main. And then we should also create a new work tree for that new plan file and launch it with the Kiro CLI. So we're just going to kick that off as well before we end for the day. So we're going to have 4 features being built for us here. And once we are back tomorrow, we're going to run code review on all of those as well and start seeing if we'll probably have a bunch of merge conflicts, but we'll deal with that tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just going to kick that off once it launches here, and I'm going to run a /devlog, and that's going to be it for today. And there was no terminal window for the 4th work tree opened for me. Okay, now our 4th work tree is running too. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run here, add to devlog. So today we planned out 4 new features. We planned out the gpui, so we planned out a wrapper for the terminal so that we can track the sessions. We planned out a port allocation feature, and we also planned out kind of include pattern override for things that we want to include when we create our work trees copy files over. We spent about an hour. We read a lot of plan files to validate them before we kick them off. And we also, we merged 2 new things. So we merged 2 new features. We created a regression script so that we can keep testing those as we release new features. Not really much challenges and blockers. There are some limits to the Kiro CLI as we haven't made any key decisions, but we will tomorrow after we start merging in some of these PRs that we are creating. So for the next session, we are planning to continue doing a lot of parallel work. I'm also planning to bring in Archon as part of the workflow here during this week. So that's now pushing to the devlog. I will create PRs for all of the features that we're currently building. So you can go in and check those out down below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see also where we go with this tomorrow. So I think that the application itself is shaping up as well in a neat way. And yeah, we are really starting to kind of scale up the velocity of what we are able to do here within the 1 hour that we do this every day. Yeah, today we spent quite literally 1 hour and we are basically building 4 features in that time. So that's pretty neat.